This week we're learning Parsha Terumah. Terumah means offering, and we will discuss what Terumah is all about, this Parsha. First, the content. The people of Israel are called to make a contribution, an offering of 13 materials by Hashem through Moshe. And the materials are gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and red dyed wool, flax, goat hair, animal skins, wood, olive oil, spices, and gems, out of which God says to Moses, to Moshe, they shall make for me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell amongst them. So all of those contributions are called upon in order to build the Mishkan, the portable temple. On the summit of the Mount Sinai, Moshe is given detailed instructions on how to construct this Mishkan for God, the dwelling for God, so that it could be readily dismantled, transported, and reassembled as the people journeyed through the desert. In the sanctuary's inner chamber, behind the artistically woven curtain, was the ark, containing the tablets of testimony engraved with 10 commandments. On the ark's cover were the 2 cherubim with wings, hammered out of pure gold, and in the outer chamber stood the 7-branched menorah, and then the table upon which the showbread was arranged. The challahs were arranged for the whole week. The sanctuary's 3 walls were fitted together from 48 upright wooden boards, each of which was overlaid with gold and held up by a pair of silver foundation sockets. The roof was formed of 3 layers of coverings, the tapestries of multicolored wool and linen, then covering made of goat hair, and then a covering of ram and tahash skins. Tahash was a multicolored animal which doesn't exist anymore. And across the front of the sanctuary was the embroidered screen held up by 5 posts. Surrounding the sanctuary and the copper-plated altar, which stood in the middle of the courtyard, was an enclosure of linen hangings, supported by 60 wooden posts with silver hooks and trimmings, and reinforced by copper stakes. And that's basically the content of that parsha. Last year, and you can check it on my YouTube channel, last year, discussing this parsha, we discussed the creation of the universe, the fact that creation of universe takes only 34 verses. But the making of this Mishkan takes hundreds of verses right to the end of the book of Shemot or Exodus. And plus this story is retold twice, actually, before and after the scene of golden calf. There are lots of debates whether the whole concept of the Mishkan was initially planned or became a consequence of the sin of golden calf. The answer was that God knew what he was doing, creating the universe. So that's why only 34 verses were enough. But to get people to build themselves a portable place of worship, inclusive of Holy of Holies, where God's presence took place, required detailed instructions. The question I would like to discuss this year is actually a natural question. Why was it necessary for God to get people to build it? Well, he is God. And he can create it all himself in a matter of minutes, seconds, I don't know. It's a logical question. Well, Rabbi Sachs, God bless his soul, explains the answer in an incredible way. In his one of his last articles for this Parshat Terumah, called The Home We Built Together, Terumah 5781, which he left us with the inheritance of all articles for the whole year in front before his passing away. He writes in that article, the answer, it seems to me, is profound. First, recall the history of the Israelites until now. It has been a long series of complaints. They complained when the first intervention by Moses made their situation worse, that's back in Egypt. Then at the Red Sea, they said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to this desert to die? And then, what have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptian than to die in the desert. After crossing the sea, they continued to complain. First about the lack of water, then that the water was bitter, then it was the lack of food, then again about the lack of water. Then within weeks of the revelation at Sinai, the only time in history God appeared to the entire nation, they made the golden calf. If this unprecedented sequence of miracles cannot bring a mature response on the part of the people, what will? Well, Jews building the Mishkan is the project of people building the place for God. It was a collective project of the people of the covenant in order to unite them. It was like a small corner of universe created by human beings in total obedience to the will of God. But they, our ancestors, suddenly became active participants and partners with God in this project. This is why God said, let them build something together. This simple command transformed the Israelites. During the whole construction of the tabernacle, during that period of construction of the tabernacle, there were no complaints. Nobody complained. The entire people contributed some gold, silver, bronze, and copper. Some brought skins and drapes. Others gave their time and skills to build it. They gave so much that Moses had to order them to stop. A remarkable proposition is being framed here. It is not what God does for us that transforms us. It is what we do for God that changes us. The people had to become God's partners in the work of creation. That, I believe, is what the sages meant when they said, call them not your children but your builders. Midrash Barachot 64a. People have to become builders if they are to grow from childhood to adulthood. That applies to individuals, families, communities, and nations. Judaism is God's call for responsibility. He does not want us to rely on miracles. He does not want us to depend on others, including Him. He wants us to become His partners, recognizing that what we have from Him. But what we do and what we make of what we have is up to us. Our choices and our effort. This is not an easy balance to achieve. It is easy to live a life of dependency. It is equally easy to go into the opposite direction, to slip into the mistake of saying, my power and my strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. That's an equally bad mistake. The Jewish view of the human condition is that everything we achieve is due to our efforts, but equally and essentially the results of God's blessings. Rabbi Sachs writes the following: the greatest gift we can give people is to give them the chance to create. This is one gift that turns the recipient into giver. It gives them dignity. It shows that we trust them, have faith in them, and believe that they are capable of great things. I was going to finish here this blog for Terumah, but a friend of mine sent me an article about what is happening with the United States as a civilization, as a country, as a nation. And it resonates so strongly with that parsha that I could not resist but add few words to that article. The article is basically saying that what is happening, the destruction of United States society, is taking place in front of our eyes. And this is a fault of both sides of politics, Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats basically turned the country, they forgot about the Constitution, they forgot about the freedom of speech, and they turned the country into total dependence on the state. After years of neglect of education and the takeover by the Marxist opinionated teachers across the schools, universities, everywhere, at least 1.5, 2, maybe 3 generations of children were brainwashed into political correctness, which has turned now into the dictatorship of political correctness. If you say something which the Democrats or the Congress doesn't like, you are labeled immediately as an enemy of the state. Where is the freedom of speech? The conservatives failed the election. They failed it because they forgot what the Democrats are doing and they are trying to steal it, and they didn't do anything. And unfortunately, President Trump, who was a great leader, because of his arrogance and sometimes very silly behavior, has managed to alienate just about everybody. And this is the other part, the other side of what this parsha is talking about. Working together, not alienating people, but making them work together into one project. And what was destroyed in the United States by successive governments over the last 20 years, the creativity, the freedom, the democracy, he did not manage to counteract because he wanted to do everything overnight. And this cannot be done. I'm sorry finishing on this sad note, but I feel that it's important to highlight the fact that the greatest gift we can give people is to give them the chance to create, which is what Rabbi Sachs is writing. And this is the one gift that turns the recipient into giver, where United States became most of all, majority of the population at least, into the nation of recipients, receivers. They do not give. It shows that when we allow people to create, we allow them to be, we trust them. We allow them the freedom to say what they think and to think what they say. And then people are capable of great things. Shabbat Shalom.
למען אחי ורעי, למען למען החי ורעי, למען החי ורעי, אדברנה, אדברנה,